From William Stickevers, Strategic Astrological Advisor.
Horary Astrology and Retrocausality, Unlocking the Future Through the Symbolic Present by William Stickevers. What if the moment you ask a question already contains the answer? What if the future, rather than unfolding passively before us, can send ripples backward into the present, quietly shaping our thoughts, intuitions, and even the cosmos itself? These questions lie at the intersection of horary astrology, an ancient form of divination, and retrocausality, a frontier concept in quantum-informed science. Together, they suggest a bold possibility that time is not strictly linear and that meaningful information from the future may influence the present in ways both subtle and profound. This video examines how these two seemingly unrelated fields, one rooted in pre-modern metaphysics, the other in cutting-edge science, may converge to provide a new understanding of reality, agency, and our place within time. What is horary astrology? Horary astrology is a traditional branch of astrology in which a chart is cast for the exact moment an astrologer understands a client's question. Unlike natal astrology, which interprets the birth chart of a person, horary focuses solely on the moment of inquiry. From this chart, the astrologer can discern whether a job offer will come through, whether a missing item will be found, or even if a relationship will reconcile. At its core, horary assumes that the moment contains the answer, that the planetary alignment at the time of asking reflects the trajectory of the situation in question. This practice dates back to the Hellenistic era and was widely used in medieval and Renaissance Europe. Yet, despite its historical roots, horary continues to demonstrate uncanny accuracy in the hands of skilled practitioners. But how does it work, and could its success reflect a deeper structure of time? What is retrocausality? In modern physics, retrocausality refers to the possibility that the future can causally influence the past or present. This idea arises naturally from the time-symmetric nature of most physical laws, equations that work equally well in both forward and backward directions. Dr. Julia Mossbridge, a leading researcher in consciousness and time perception, has shown through rigorous experiments that physiological responses, like skin conductance and heart rate, can react to future stimuli before they occur. This phenomenon, known as predictive anticipatory activity, suggests that the human body can feel the future, particularly in emotionally significant events. Mossbridge's models, especially the physical time symmetry and pervasive universal consciousness frameworks, offer a scientific structure for understanding how information from the future might loop back into the present. Shared foundational assumption: time is not linear. Both horary astrology and retrocausality operate on a nonlinear model of time. In horary, the moment of the question is entangled with the outcome symbolically and causally. Similarly, retrocausality posits that future events can causally shape current conditions, often through time-symmetric physical processes. In horary astrology, this manifests as the idea that the moment a question is asked is intrinsically connected to its eventual outcome. This is captured by the field's central maxim: the moment contains the seed of the outcome. In parallel, retrocausality asserts the future loops back to influence the present. In both, the present is not isolated. It is informed by both past and future. Horary astrology and retrocausality challenge the collective illusion the past equals the future. One of the most entrenched assumptions in modern rationalist culture is the belief that the future is merely an extension of the past. This is the foundation of linear thinking, the idea that cause and effect flow in one direction and that tomorrow will be shaped exclusively by what has already occurred. This worldview underlies everything from scientific forecasting and data modeling to our everyday habits of expectation and memory. Yet both horary astrology and retrocausality directly negate this deterministic equation. In retrocausality, the future is not merely the endpoint of prior causes. It can become an active influence on the present, subtly reshaping physiology, decision-making, and awareness in ways that reverse the traditional causal arrow. In horary astrology, the moment of a question is not bound by prior conditions. It becomes a symbolic resonance point with the outcome, regardless of when or how that outcome unfolds. In both systems, time is not a linear chain of causes, but a dynamic field of potentials where information flows in multiple directions. The future is not fixed, but neither is it passively inherited from the past. It is participatory, symbolic, and sometimes accessible in the very moment of inquiry. This fundamentally dismantles the Newtonian worldview of cause-effect future and instead invites us into a co-creative dialogue with time, one where outcomes can echo backwards and choices in the present can harmonize with futures not yet fully born. By acknowledging that the past does not equal the future, horary astrology and retrocausality together reintroduce agency, imagination, and intuition into the temporal structure of reality and invite us to live not as passive recipients of fate, but as active participants in a multidimensional unfolding. Horary charts as retrocausal snapshots. When an astrologer receives a horary question, they cast a chart for that precise moment. According to tradition, that chart holds the full symbolic expression of the situation's resolution. This may seem mystical, but when viewed through the lens of retrocausality, it becomes something else, an informational intercept. This idea mirrors the time loop model proposed in retrocausal physics. Just as the body might respond to a future emotional shock, the cosmos may respond symbolically to a future outcome via planetary configurations at the moment the question arises. The observer effect and the role of intent. Quantum physics reveals that the observer is never passive. The very act of observation affects the outcome. In Dr. Mossbridge's work, intention functions as a kind of querying force, capable of interacting with non-local fields that transcend space-time. Horary astrology depends on this same principle. A horary chart does not work automatically. It only reveals meaning through the focused awareness, interpretive skill, and intention of the astrologer. This moment of conscious engagement is what collapses symbolic potential into divinatory meaning. As astrologer and philosopher Geoffrey Cornelius argues, astrology is not a mechanistic system, but a form of symbolic divination. Meaning arises not through deterministic cause and effect, but through the interactive resonance between the astrologer, the chart, and the querent. In both horary and retrocausality, conscious participation draws latent information across time into present awareness. Attention in this view is not passive, it is a creative act that retrieves meaningful patterns from a multi-directional timeline, informational fields, and archetypal language. Dr. Mossbridge's pervasive universal consciousness model proposes that a universal non-local consciousness field underlies space-time. In horary astrology, this same field is accessed through a symbolic language of archetypes, planets, signs, aspects, and houses. Each planetary alignment is a mythic cipher, revealing deep patterns in time and psyche. This aligns with Mossbridge's view that information exists beyond time and can manifest through symbolic or energetic means. Astrology then becomes a form of cosmic pattern recognition, tuned not to deterministic laws but to timeless coherence. The astrologer's role is to read these patterns not as mechanistic outcomes, but as echoes of probability waves, as mythically coded data from the deeper substrate of consciousness. Horary judgments as temporal echoes. From this perspective, horary does not predict the future in a deterministic way. Rather, the chart echoes the trajectory of a situation whose outcome is already gaining momentum. The outcome, though still open to influence, sends a symbolic ripple backward into the moment of inquiry, allowing the astrologer to capture and interpret it. This idea resonates with retrocausal models in which future physiological or energetic events reverberate into earlier moments, creating closed time loops of meaning and resonance. From this viewpoint, horary judgments operate much like time loops. The outcome of a situation pulls meaning into the moment of the question. The astrologer deciphers that signal using archetypal syntax. The symbolic narrative mirrors a trajectory already gaining coherence. This allows horary to function within a probabilistic framework. It doesn't declare the future with finality, but identifies the most likely arc based on current momentum and key turning points already shaped by prior choices. Free will and the co-creation of fate. A central concern for skeptics is whether practices like horary or retrocausality eliminate free will. On the contrary, both disciplines propose a co-creative model of time. Dr. Julia Mossbridge says you can choose which probability becomes reality. Horary Astrology says fate may speak, but how we respond is still ours. Horary astrology is not a fatalistic machine of destiny. Instead, it reveals archetypal conditions and likely paths, especially when crucial choices have already been made or unconsciously committed to. The horary reading offers insight, not incarceration. Horary works not because it traps the querent in an unalterable future, but because it reveals the archetypal structure of a situation already shaped by pivotal decisions. Its greatest power lies not in fatalism, but in empowerment. The querent gains insight and agency by confronting the most probable version of their timeline. A unified hypothesis, horary as symbolic retrocausality. Horary astrology may be one of the oldest systems for engaging with retrocausal information, an intuitive symbolic interface with the deeper architecture of time. Rather than dismissing it as superstition, we might recognize it as a cultural technology for extracting meaningful data from the future translated through ritual, symbolism, and archetypal intelligence. According to Jeffrey Cornelius, astrology is not a failed science, but a successful divination. In this light, horary is not irrational, but transrational, a structured way to access information through nonlinear time and symbolic correspondence, similar in spirit to the direction modern science is now tentatively pointing. Listening to the future in the now. Horary astrology and retrocausality both challenge our assumptions about time, causality, and the nature of consciousness. They suggest that the present is porous, that it breathes with the past and hums with the future. And when a question is asked with sincerity, the cosmos answers, not through deterministic machinery, but through symbolic resonance. The chart reflects what the body, the mind, and the world already know, often before events have visibly unfolded. And in this sacred dialogue across time, agency is preserved, not in domination of fate, but in deeper alignment with it. Conclusion. A bridge between worlds. As science advances toward a deeper understanding of time, causality, and consciousness, horary astrology stands poised for reevaluation, not as a relic of mysticism, but as a living model of symbolic entanglement with the future. In both retrocausality and horary, we find the same provocative truth. The future is not fixed, but it is speaking, and the present, when observed with skill and intention, can hear its echo.
For nearly 4 decades, William Stickevers has empowered business leaders, independent thinkers, and visionaries to navigate global shifts and critical turning points with clarity and confidence. His unique blend of advanced astrological techniques, macroeconomic insights, and strategic forecasting equips clients to stay ahead of the curve and thrive in uncertain times. Discover how William's in-depth forecasts, programs, and astrological consultations can help you make more confident, well-timed decisions and recognize opportunities others overlook. Visit williamstickevers.com for your strategic advantage in business, finances, and life.